Welcome back to the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Now, we have a full week of county championship action to go through today. Joe is joining me to go through it. A lot of bad weather, a lot of draws, a lot of stupid stuff that happened during the week that I'm sure we'll get into. We're going to start off with Sussex versus Surrey. A relatively dull draw, this one. Sussex scored 435 in the first innings. Surrey then reply with 490, and then Sussex's 132 but no loss. It was a very interesting innings with who did you have? You had Dan Worrell bowling leg spin, Rory Burns bowling seam up, Dom Sibley bowling some leg spin. It was some rather interesting stuff. Dan Lawrence, Ollie Pope and Tom Haines all score centuries. Joe, is there a problem with Surrey yet? Can we light the beacons and say that it's all gone wrong for Surrey and they can never win a game again?
I think the thing with Surrey is a lot of people have not figured them out. It's too early to say that, but a lot of people have just clocked to prepare flat pitches. They don't have the one element of their team that they're missing is like a top elite spinner. And I think people have kind of clocked that they're not necessarily going to be able to take 10 wickets on a pitch where 5 fast bowlers or 4 fast bowlers and Dan Lawrence are having to kind of do all the work. Not that that's like a slight on Dan Lawrence. He's a very good spinner. I've seen him take a fifer against Lancs, but he's not a frontline like elite spinner. And I think that's probably what teams try and do now. So later in the season it might change, but I think for now maybe teams have just potentially figured them out. And obviously at the Oval they can prepare what they want, but away from home I feel like they might struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and I think teams are probably going to say, do you know what, we'll take a draw against Surrey. If we prepare a flat one and we can't take 20 wickets, then it is what it is. I thought their lack of spinner was going to be a struggle this season. I also thought it was going to be a struggle last season, and they managed to work it out. It's just something that I don't quite understand why they haven't gone out and got a spinner. You'd think they would have the pick of decent county spinners. Could we even see someone like a Shoaib Bashir go back to Surrey?
Like I just don't think the options are there. Like you want someone who's going to be there for like the entire season, who's not going to get picked for England, and I just don't think that the options are like out there. Like Leach is never going to leave, Dawson's never going to leave. Obviously, Somerset and Hampshire respectively. Like I genuinely just don't think that like Rehan Ahmed maybe, but like he's not going to leave Leicestershire. Farhan Ahmed's not going to leave. Like maybe someone like Calvin Harrison, but I just don't think that the options are there. And obviously they could go and get an overseas. He obviously had Shakib last season. I don't know if he's retired from Red Bull now or not, but yeah, there's overseas options I'm sure, but I don't know. It's a weird one. I mean, maybe further down the line they'll try and get Santner involved because he's obviously going there for the blast. But I just think that's a bit of an issue for Surrey.
Yeah, I mean, I just the problem is they've got so much money that they can basically just give a blank check to anyone that they want. Why would you not go out and say to a Mason Crane, someone like that? Zafar Gohar obviously went to Middlesex this winter. Why did they not go for someone like that? I know that they really believe in that kind of, well, we're just going to turn our kind of people that bowl part-time spin into a genuine all-rounder. They're trying to do it with Dan Lawrence. They had a bit of success with Cam Steele at the start of last season. I just don't understand kind of why they haven't tried to fill that hole. One good thing is Gus Atkinson back in the wickets for 120. Expensive, but picked up some wickets on a pretty flat one. That's kind of what you expect from him. He's had a tough winter, you'd probably say. So it was nice to see him pick up some wickets. I didn't see if his speeds were up. Did you see if his...
I don't know. I didn't see that either, but
no,
obviously good to see him in the wickets.
More runs for Tom Haines. Do we start talking about him for England yet? Or is he just not the right mould?
Well, I mean, I would pick him in the Zimbabwe test. I don't think he will because he's not the mould that they're looking for. But I would absolutely be picking him in the Zimbabwe test. I think he's a fantastic player, knows his game inside and out. And I spoke last week about McKinney kind of it coming too soon in terms of him just knowing his game. And I think Haynes is at that kind of next stage that McKinney will get to in a few years. And for me, that's what I kind of like someone like a good example would be Jonathan Trott. Going back years, he was someone who honed his craft for years in domestic cricket and got picked and was an instant success. That would be like a kind of example off the top of my head, and I think Haynes is in that kind of mold in terms of knows his game inside out. And for me, he should be playing for England. I like I said, I don't think he will, but maybe the numbers will get too hard to ignore. But we've seen them ignore Sam Cook for goodness knows how many years. So who knows?
Yeah, and the one thing that I will say about this England setup is that they get a lot of stick for not picking county stats. In terms of batsmen, I think that's actually wrong. I think the batsmen that they've historically picked, with the exception of Bethel, who I think was kind of put into that role just as a let's give him a try. He's gone all right in the white ball stuff, and we can see that there's talent there. You think of the players that were kind of out of the squad that came back in, even if it was at the start when McCullum took over. So you're looking at like Ollie Pope, Harry Brook obviously came in, all off the back of lots of runs in the county championship. It's just the bowlers that they don't pick on county stats, which you can go back as far as you want, and England have always done that. Jimmy Anderson had played like two 50 over games for Lancs by the time he got picked to play for England. It's not something that's completely ridiculous. In terms of other England runs, Ollie Pope with a century. He'd had a pretty crap start to the year, and Dan Lawrence scored a run of ball century as well. Dan Lawrence getting the England squad this summer.
Another one who I don't think will, but probably deserves to. I mean, the spare batter this year I think will be Jordan Cox.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'd love to see Lawrence kind of get another crack at the whip. I don't think he's played enough Test cricket, and obviously last summer was misused. He's only played 14 tests, and all right, he's only averaging 26. But I don't, for me, think he's had a fair crack at the whip yet, where we can kind of fully rule him out. And maybe in another kind of era, he's only 27, so he's not super old, you know.
He's not
that kind of a concern.
And I thought he was unlucky with the chance that he did get was as an opener.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
It's not his spot.
His style at all, no.
The issue is that England don't have the spot at 4, 5, and 6. They have the spot at maybe 1 and 3.
Yeah,
that's the issue that they've got. 5 wickets for James Coles as well. Possibly the worst fifer you'll ever see in your life. Go watch the highlights on Twitter. I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Hey, 5 is a fifer, that's all I'll say.
Exactly. There are no pictures on the scorecard. Moving on to Durham versus Yorkshire. Yorkshire make 307 in the first innings. 4 wickets for Brendan Doggett, 4 wickets for Ben Rain. Durham in reply, 427, 172 from Alex Lees, 152 for Emilio Gay. And then Yorkshire replied 277 for 6. Johnny Bairstow on his way to his century, but rain comes down. The game ends in a draw. All the talk last week was about Ben McKinney. Should it have been about Alex Lees and Emilio Gay being in it for a shit? I mean, England have gone from having no options as an opener, and if you drop Zach Crawley, who'd you pick? To there's like 7 or 8 now, and we're going to get on to more. But I mean, Emilio Gay and Alex Lees could be in with a shout.
Well, starting off with Lees, I think he can consider himself unlucky that he's not played more, because I don't think he did badly under McCullum and Stokes at the start, and I don't know why they cast him off for Ducky, and obviously Ducky's been an instant success essentially, but I think Lees can consider himself lucky he's not had more chance. Again, there's someone who knows his game inside and out, classy player, just a consistent run scorer. He's ridiculously good. And Emilio Gay, I think he's kind of like he's only 25. I would say he's quite an up and coming player still. A really important 100 for him, I think, at number 3, because just kind of, if there was any doubt as to why Durham signed him, generally speaking, then there's your answer, I guess. Classic left-hander, so good through the covers. Some of those drives he was hitting were amazing. And he's someone who, I think if England are looking for that more kind of attacking, aggressive opener, he could be someone in that mould in the long run. Like I say, he's only 25. He's going to be around for another 10 years at least in domestic cricket, probably. So, yeah, he's someone who's a very good option as well for England. And that Durham top three is very nice. If all three of them fire, then you're looking at a really good top three there.
Yeah, and a game that was probably setting up to be quite a close one, but just lost too much time due to the rain. There wasn't really any standouts apart from the fact of I still don't have Ben Rain in my fantasy side, and that's completely stupid of me because he scores points every single week. Moving on to Essex versus Worcestershire, the game that we actually saw a result in. Essex make 179. Worcestershire reply with 202. Essex go on to make 317, setting Worcestershire a target of 295. It looked like it was all over when they were 202 for 9. But Ethan Brooks, 88 of 105, and was controversially caught and bowled by Jamie Porter, who ended up with 6 wickets in the match against a Sam Cookless Essex side. Should we start with the catch?
Yeah, did you think that was out? Because I thought it was clearly not out.
It was clearly not out.
The umpires didn't have the angle. I think when there's an incident like that, you've got to give the batter the benefit of the doubt because you simply don't have the technology, and it's too, like I say, unless it's clear that the ball's been caught cleanly, there's too many kind of factors that go into it, or too much indecisiveness, really. So for me, the umpires should have kind of come together, had a chat, and then said, we have to give the benefit of the doubt to Brooks. And I was a little bit shocked at the kind of response from Essex upon that wicket. I thought it was like you just had a guy who's played a heroic knock, almost got his side over the line from kind of the depths of defeat, or like nearly snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, to put it that way. And I was just a bit surprised at the way they reacted. I understand there's a lot of emotion, passion involved, and it's kind of heat of the moment thing. But yeah, I was a little bit, I guess, shocked at the way the reaction was from Essex, I guess. But for me, it wasn't out, and I think Brooks was very hard done by.
Yeah, especially Jamie Porter. Jamie Porter really got in Brooks' face towards the end. I know there was kind of handshakes after, and it got a little bit nicer towards the end, but it did look quite ugly, especially when he first took the catch. Because, I mean, Brooks has probably got the best view of every single person, even probably better than what Porter had. I mean, the thing that I don't understand is that takes 2 minutes for someone to shout up to the stream, is that out? Why can we not use that technology?
Because I guess then you're not playing on a level playing field with the rest of the game or the rest of the competition. And I don't disagree that they couldn't do that, but they can't do it in that instance if they're not going to do that in every game. And I don't think the technology is there to that level to be able to do that in every game of the season. I would assume that's why. But yeah, and also I don't know if the camera angles and I suppose it's still the technology. I don't know if everything that you need is there. But yeah, I don't disagree that it would have been an easy kind of thing to do. But yeah, I'm not sure that they would have been allowed, I guess.
I mean, I don't know how expensive it is to put DRS systems in place, and whether when we get the 100 money that's something we can look at, but it feels like something that we need. I mean, how many shockers of decisions do we get now? Sometimes they affect the game. I mean, what was it, the Archie Vaughan one that we had week 1 against Worcestershire?
Yeah, the D'Oliveira one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like something that needs to come into the game. Like the county game's probably big enough. I mean, you can get Hawkeye set up on your phone now. I mean, it's not it's not technology that should be ridiculously overpriced and something that we can't do. So it would be nice to see a real kind of low scoring game. That was the only reason we actually got a result. Paul Walter, the only century of the game, he's really taken to that opening spot, isn't he? I really didn't think that he would do well in that position, but it seems to be something that he's thrived in. Usually when you get, I don't know, I just imagine him as more of a white ball player, because you see him in the odd, he's kind of turned into a bit of a cult hero in the Big Bash now, and feels very T20 Blast, very 100. I mean, he feels so 100 to me that I was actually shocked that he didn't play for Lancs, because I'm so used to seeing him in a Manchester Originals kit. I thought he's done really well. in his start so far.
He has, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, you got to replace Dean Elgar, which isn't an easy task. But I'm not sure if it's a long-term thing. Like, I know he's got runs, but I don't feel like that's going to stay. Like, I think he'll probably be fine to drop down the order, I'd imagine, because he is, I guess, more comfortable batting there. But yeah, while Elgar's gone, I guess he's a good placeholder and better, really. He's doing very well. So, yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Moving on to Somerset versus Hampshire. Somerset score 184 in their first innings. Hampshire, in reply, 336. Somerset bat out for a draw, 163 for 2. I don't think we saw much play, if any at all, on day 4. Somerset, again, didn't look great. I'm starting to worry a little bit about my prediction of them winning it all.
Yeah, I said last week, I think it's just an off week, and I still maintain that. I mean, they obviously didn't have Gregory this week. Obviously, Sussex, they didn't have Overton, and there are two attack leaders basically who are taken out. And yeah, I still think that they're a good team, and that it's just an off week, and maybe I'll be kind of eating my words in 4 or 5 weeks time or something. But yeah, I don't know. I still rated them, and I think they've got a lot of talented players. And Sean Dixon obviously got runs this week, which is good for him because I mentioned last week he was kind of struggling for form in the first couple of games, but he got a really gritty 77 off 197 to kind of secure that draw because I think there's 21 balls or something like that on day 4. So you know if he hadn't got those runs, then anything could happen in 21 balls. On the previous night, of course, as well. So yeah, that was an important knock. But yeah, I do like this Somerset side still on paper. I just think they've had off weeks really, and it will kind of all click when they get their strongest 11. And hopefully, when Matt Henry comes as well, that'll be a massive help.
Yeah, when is he? Oh, he's not coming anymore, is he?
He's injured. I think he's not coming for the full length of
I
time.
thought he was just going to be available for the Blast, isn't he?
Oh, I'm not sure. I thought
I
he
think
was
there
still going
might
to
be a
play
game in there
county
somewhere.
championship cricket. I might be wrong on that, but I know he's definitely injured and is still going to be in the country playing for Somerset in some form of competition.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried about Somerset. I thought this was going to be their year, but just haven't quite fired. Do I drop Tom Banton from my fantasy team now? It feels like the time to after he scored 377 or whatever it was the other day. He hasn't made a run since. I mean, first week he scores 374, and I think he's got a combined about 20 runs since he did that. So he's obviously run out of all of his luck. I thought Hampshire looked pretty good. Looked good with the ball again. But yeah, again, rain let this game down like it did with most of the games. Another game that was let down by rain, Warwickshire versus Notts. Warwickshire blown away for 93 in the first innings. Fergus, O'Neill, and Brett Hutton both taking 5 apiece. Notts 367 with reply. Hasib Hamid carrying his bat 138 not out. 5 wickets for Michael Booth in the second innings. And then Warwickshire 181 for 6. Ed Barnard 40 off 149. And Oliver Hannon Derby at 7 off 62 to try and save a draw against the weather. Joe, when is Fergus O'Neill going to play for Australia?
If it's not this, maybe the West Indies, but I don't feel like they'll take him to the West Indies. But if it's not, then I think it'll be in the summer. Well, our winter, their summer. I wasn't joking when I said he's good. He's the leading wicket taker. He's ridiculous, averaging about 14 with the ball. He's just like a phenomenal red ball bowler, and I'm quite buzzing to see him do well because obviously I've kind of banged on about him a lot on various podcasts and in articles and on Twitter, and now to see him doing well is pretty vindicating, I guess. So yeah, it's impressive, and I don't think it'll be long before he's a Test cricketer because Australia don't ignore domestic form. Whatever you want to say about England, Australia definitely don't do that. So no. I would imagine he'll be playing Test cricket in the next 18 months. He's a joke of a bowler, basically.
Yeah, I mean that the problem is it was always kind of that thing of being a leg spinner for Australia in the kind of mid-90s to early 2000s. You're never going to get in over Shane Warne. There are three, maybe four pretty good bowlers keeping him out of that side. I guess the thing going for him is that he's only 24. He's only just turned 24. So he's at least got another 10 years, touch wood, without injuries. And that pace trio might have a year or two left in them, all three or four of them. Pat Cummins is probably going to go for a bit longer than Stark or Hazelwood, but you could see Stark and Hazelwood calling it quits pretty soon. If it's not this Ashes, you'd imagine it would be the Ashes after. Is usually when they'd go out. Haseeb Hameed scoring runs is always nice to see. Bit of not a great start to the season for him, if I remember rightly. But to carry his back, get him up to 367, a point where they could win the game. And it was just the rain that stopped them from doing it, realistically. This game was dead and buried. Warwickshire just did not have a chance. And it was a shame because you're going to need points to stay up, push for a title, whatever you want to do. And I mean, especially with Surrey, drawing their first 3 games, it's completely up in the air. I mean, Notts are still top of the table, but they're level on points with Sussex. Essex are 2 points behind them. There isn't a team with more than 1 win yet in Division 1. We've had a fair few draws. So if they could have picked up a win, it would have really propelled them towards what could be a title.
Yeah. I actually really rate this Notts side, like a lot. I think they're really good. I think I mentioned on the preview that we did about them kind of being around 4th, and I'm still sticking with that. Maybe could be higher. They're obviously losing O'Neill after their next game against Sussex, but they're replacing him with Mohammed Abbas. So it's feels like a seamless transition. Kind of quite a light for light replacement. And yeah, I really do rate this Notts side. They've obviously got good depth in the fast bowling department when everyone's fit, although Ollie's probably not going to be fit this season, unfortunately, or at least for a while. But Dylan Pennington hopefully will be back again soon. And Hudson's doing well, which is good because I've always been a big fan of Brett Hudson. I don't think he kind of has got the recognition he's deserved over the years. So, I like this. I like this Notts side a lot. And Hameed is always nice to see ex-Lancs players doing well, really. And Hameed is no different. One of my favourite openers on the circuit. And, doesn't probably really fit what England are looking for, but he's a classy player, and I'm sure Notts won't be complaining that the captain's not going to get picked for England, because whilst it's always nice to have England representatives at your county, it's always good to have someone of that quality leading you, really. So yeah, Notts are good. I really rate them.
Yeah, and the problem for Notts is that they literally had a period where they had Hameed playing for England, so they lost him, and then literally like 6 months after Hameed gets dropped, Duckett then gets picked for England. He's playing for England in all formats as well, so you're going to miss him even more. It's a shame that Duckett hasn't played yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure about why. Maybe just, I don't know, once. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure he's recently had a kid within the last however many months, so maybe he just wants time off with his family, which is obviously be fair enough. It's a busy few months for Nick, so I'm guessing he'll play all 3 formats this summer. So he's going to be getting about this summer. So yeah,
probably a similar reason to why Brooke and Root aren't playing for Yorkshire.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Moving on to Division 2, we're going to start off with Lancs versus Leicestershire. Lancs bat first, 263 they are bowled out for. Tom Scriven with 5 wickets. Leicestershire in reply, 491 for 8 declared. You had 100 from Rehan Ahmed, 142 from Peter Hanscom, and then Lancashire in reply. They were 11 for 3 at one point, but there was rain on day 4, meaning they get to 90 for 3, save a draw. Joe, I'm going to give you the option. Would you like to talk about Rehan Ahmed opening the batting for England, or would you like to talk about Lancashire being awful?
Is it an option of one or the other, or is it?
It's one or the other.
Unless it's Rehan Ahmed.
Okay.
I've dissected Lancs enough. I would just say Lancs are the form is worrying, and stuff needs to be sorted out quickly, because otherwise we might not get promoted. That's all I'll say.
I mean, if Lancs don't get promoted, that's a disaster, isn't it? That's worst case scenario.
Because look, there's so many good sides. I think Leicester will be up there. I now think Kent will be up there despite my kind of reservations at the start of the season. Middlesex, I still think Gloucestershire will be there. Like, there's already 4 sides. Northlands have started pretty well. Even Derbyshire started well. Like, there's 6 sides out of 8. Like I said, I'm a little bit worried now because it's 3 draws where we've not looks like winning, we've looked like losing and have clung on for the draw rather than like putting a valiant effort and not being able to, get the last wicket or quite chase down a target, whatever. So yeah, it's concerning. It really is, and things will hopefully change in the kind of week off, and then Gloucestershire at home next. I think Jimmy will be back for hopefully. Good time to turn it around. We've ended up talking about Lancashire anyway, so which was bound to happen.
Yeah, I'd be worried. It feels very negative from them. That's the problem that I have, is that they just, I think we spoke about it last week. It's just no one seems to go out there and attack. I don't get the Jones being top of the order. I don't understand why it's not Marcus Harris. I don't really get that. I like their bowling attack. Their bowling attack looks good.
The issue is we can't take 20 wickets, and I think Old Trafford doesn't help. It's just a hard place to take 20 wickets. But also, I think it's a little bit of a hangover from last season and probably a lack of red ball games, because I don't know how much red ball cricket Anderson Phillips played, but I'd imagine he has been playing over the winter for the in the West Indies. Mahmood's not played a red ball game for however long. John Turner's played about 6 red ball games, and they're both great players. I'm big fans of them both, but there's not much red ball kind of overs under the belt. It's not even about experience. They're international cricketers, but overs under the belt is lacking. And yeah, back to the kind of like negativity with the bat. I think the worrying thing for me is that there was 3 players who struck over 50 in the first innings, and one of those was Mahmood, and he got 13 of 12. The other one was Hurst, who got 46 of 78. A really good knock. I enjoy watching that, although a little bit scratchy at the start. And Harris has been incredible for us so far. He got 77 off 150, and that was a strike rate of literally 51.33. No one had a strike rate of above 58, and that's a real concern to me, because I just don't think the intent is really there. And that was an issue last season. Seems to be score at 2 and over, and kind of we're not really going to kind of like step on it at all. And that's a little bit of a worry, because I don't feel like that's something that, like, that's not an individual kind of issue. The players are good enough to do that. It feels like an instructional thing, and I'm interested to see if they tweak that going forward. But yeah, I am quite worried.
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying I'll come out and score 5, 6 and over.
Yeah, of course, I'm not saying that.
It's score at 3.5 and not 2.5.
Because that's the thing, that run makes a difference. And like I say, for no one to have a strike rate, or 3 players to have a strike rate above 50 in a red ball game in 2025 is a real concern to me. So, like I said, that's got to change. But hopefully, Jimmy will come back. The week off will kind of be a big help, and everyone will be rejuvenated for Gloucestershire. But yeah, so to answer your question, I'm happy to talk about Lancs rather than Rehan.
We will go to Rehan Ahmed. 100 off 149 balls. Opening the batting, off of the 70 odd that he got last week as well.
77, I think, was it?
Is he in with a shout of opening the batting for England?
I honestly think he is. Yeah. It sounds crazy to say, but I really do think like he has a legitimate claim to that. He fits exactly what they're looking for. I mean, I saw the first. I can't remember if he got to 50, but I saw his innings, the first part of his innings on day 2. I can't remember exactly what he ended on now. And it was just a brilliant and enjoyable knock. And there were so many kind of like really well hit, well timed, full blooded drives. A really like a lot of positivity, like in terms of like running between the wickets. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And then what impressed me was his watchfulness. Of course, getting towards the end of the day, you don't want to lose late wickets, and Leicestershire were in a very, very strong position. And he kind of recognised that, and kind of had the know-how and the skill really to see it through to stumps, and then kicked on again, and obviously reached his 100. It's a shame he couldn't. Well, talking without my likes out on here, it's a shame he couldn't go and get more than exactly 100, because he would have deserved it just looking at how he played that night before, and also on the Sunday as well. And I think he has a legitimate claim to owning the bide if he kind of continues his form up until the Zimbabwe test. If he goes and gets another 2 or 3 50s and another 100, I really do think he'll do it, which is weird to say because no one thought that'd be happening, but it'll be really cool at the same time.
He's the one. So what have you've got Crawley as an option, you've got McKinney as an option, you've got Lees as an option, you've got Haynes as an option. You could go back to Dom Sibley started scoring runs at the start of the season. These are all options that you could pick from. Hasib Hamid has scored 138 not out this week. He's the one that would excite me the most. I don't know if that's some kind of leg spinner bias, some kind of leg spin club stuff, and I always like people bowling leg spin. But I think he should be in the squad anyway.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Over Bashir.
I think.
Yeah,
sorry, go on. No, I was going to say I think the worrying thing with that is he's not bowled much. He didn't bowl at all in the first innings against Lancs, and then bowled at the end of day 4 when Leicester should be trying to chase the win. So I think England could almost put him in and use him as an opening batter, a genuine all-rounder really, and then play like 4 seamers or 5 seamers, including Stokes. And that's like a legitimate option that they now have as well. Then if you've got Root, plus you've got Rehan Ahmed, who is an actual frontline spinner, opening the batting, who might not need to bowl too much, but is there. I think that's a really kind of nice and also intriguing balance. And I think they could try it out for Zimbabwe because the Zimbabwe test is at risk of kind of sounding disrespectful to Zimbabwe. Feel like many people see this as like a free hit almost, which it's a test match you want to win and you want to play at your best. But it's a good chance for England to kind of experiment with perhaps something like that. And by the way, Zimbabwe are a good side. They just beat Bangladesh in a test match. I'm not actually trying to sound disrespectful, like England are going to walk over Zimbabwe, but
they should. I mean, in
yeah,
terms of talent and money,
yeah,
and
of course,
facilities and pathways
England
and
should win the test match.
Whatever you want to talk about, we should be able to pick a second or third 11 that would beat this Zimbabwe side. All right, you're not throwing the third best current brother at me. And all of a sudden we should lose. Okay, I'm not having that. That's just I don't want to disrespect Zimbabwe, like you said, but we should be able to experiment with a side. And if that means that we don't play. Now, the issue that I have of just completely throwing the team and having it almost as a trial is the fact of people like Brook and Root and Stokes and Duckett haven't played any red ball cricket in first class.
I would include them though. Like I would include them. I mean, those 4 are obviously shootings. I don't think anyone in the bowling attack is a guarantee. I'd say Smith is a guarantee. Maybe Ollie Pope, I'd say, is now a guarantee because he's been in the runs. So there's 6. So then I feel like you try to pick another opening batter and your 4 quicks, which feels like a free hit anyway, even if this was the India series instead of going straight into the India series, because a lot of the best bowlers aren't fit. Like for example, Wokes, Wood. These guys aren't going to be playing. Stone. I'm not sure about Cars. Atkinson's one who's a guarantee as well. Sorry, forgot about him. And then you're probably saying Cook is going to play. England wouldn't have rested him. Who's the other person? Potts has to play. And then that kind of feels like then go and pick someone kind of whoever, really. I don't think that would be like a trial against anyone. I'd be intrigued to see who they do go with there. But I do think Rehan Ahmed is in with a shout of opening the batting. Especially if he, like I say, if he goes and gets 3 more 50s and another 100 by the time the Zimbabwe test rolls around, plus bowls enough to kind of maintain, keep overs under his belt, etc. Picks up a few wickets. I don't think they wouldn't. I don't see why they wouldn't pick him purely based from a selector's point of view. I'm not saying that's right, but I just feel like that's what they go with. And I don't really think there's a right or wrong for this current England team. They pick off vibes, and Rehan Ahmed opening the batting is insane vibes, so they might just go with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also I think those 2 or 3 Lions games that we've got before the India series are going to be really interesting to see where they go with that as well.
I agree, especially because I believe the game at Wantage Road, India will field a full strength side. So it's India A, but it's actually India's first choice test side. So that's a huge opportunity for the Sam Cooks, Rehan Ahmeds of the world, Potts,
Mm.
these kind of players to go and actually say, well, look, I've just Cooks, I've just got Coley out, I've just got Pant out, etc. Like pick me basically. So
Yeah.
that's going to be massive, and I'm excited for that. Maybe as excited for that as I am for the Test series. So that'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
that's going to be that is going to be a appointment watching those few Lions games before. I will be at Wantage Road for that game. I might even go down to Canterbury for the other one as well. Pete Hanscom also scored runs, but he always scores runs.
He's very good. Him and Marcus Harris are two of the best overseas in the County Championship. So yeah,
Mm.
both quality.
Moving on to Glamorgan versus Middlesex, another game that saw a result. Glamorgan bowled out for 199. Dane Patterson in his first appearance for Middlesex bowled well. He took 2 wickets for 46. In reply, Middlesex 470 for 9 declared. Max Holden with another century. 80s for Lewis Deploy and Ben Geddes. And a few runs at the bottom of the order as well. Ben Kellaway took 4 wickets. Then Glamorgan, 329, the top scorer from Chris Cook, who scored 69. And then Middlesex chased down 59 in just under 8 overs. They nearly lost because of rain. They didn't come back out until about half 5, and I was starting to worry because we were like 16 for 1. Needed 30 runs to win. I'm like, please don't get rained off. A good win for Middlesex. I thought they looked really good, and I said last week that the difference is having a proper. We were a seamer short. Dane Patterson came into the attack and just looked like he solved all the problems.
Yeah, Middlesex when they've got Patterson look a much more kind of fearsome side. And I thought Roland Jones did pretty well this week as well. I think you mentioned last week he's kind of maybe age is catching up with him, but obviously not scored runs, took wickets. And to be fair, they scored a few runs, 31 down the order. Yeah, I think the thing with Middlesex is all their big players kind of fired, particularly Holden, Deploy, Geddes. Obviously, Higgins hasn't really got going yet this season, by the way, but he's so good that I think that will kind of his momentum will take him forward, kind of thing. But yeah, it felt like a very complete performance. And I also will say Nathan Fernandez, important runs for him because I know you were a little bit worried about him at the top of the order. But yeah, important 50. I think he did a really good job at kind of laying a platform with Eskenazi. So yeah, 58 of 136 for him is a solid contribution. I think he'll be chuffed with that because tough start to the season, but those runs will be huge for him now.
Yeah, I'm still interested to see what they do when Sam Robson comes back. Whether they drop
How
Fernandez or
long is Robson out?
Eskenazi. I don't know. I'm
Is
not
it and what
100%.
injury is it?
I can't remember what it was.
So I've
I
not
know that
actually seen the length of the injury. Just know that.
I thought it was kind of game to game stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll look it up. How I find it. Trump tweets about Trump. No, no, I can't seem to see how long he's out for. But I don't think it shouldn't be that long. I didn't see anything bad to say that it was going to be an issue. No, I can't see anything. I'd imagine he'd be back in the next game or two. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they get there. Max Holden again with runs, it just slightly doesn't get spoken about in this side enough. He said he had a really good season last year. Has started well this year. Lewis Deploy scoring his first kind of decent runs of the year. And then Ben Geddes scoring runs again, who just turned into a really good signing from Surrey. I'm glad we picked him up. And Zafar Gohar in the wickets as well, which is always nice. I think he's a cracking signing for what we've had this year.
I'd agree. Also going to 2 and over in that second innings, which is an important kind of contribution. Took 2 wickets as well, but didn't go for any runs, and that was really important.
Yeah, it was very towards the back end of the innings. Glamorgan were trying to bat out as much time, hoping for the weather, more than anything there. And again, with his first innings, he looks expensive, but it was more of a fact of they were just trying to give it a whack.
Still goes and picks up wickets as well, though. Like
Mm.
He's a wicket taker anyway, whether he's going at 2 and over and the opposition's trying to block him out, or he's going at 4 and over and the opposition's trying to get quick runs, however it may have played out. He's a wicket taker and it's exciting for Middlesex. Very good signing.
Yeah, one thing that I am upset that he's come is it means that Josh DeCaris doesn't get a go. I liked Josh DeCaris last year, but he has really taken his spot. But good win for Middlesex. They needed it after a loss to Kent last week and a draw against Lancs in the first game of the season. Moving on to Gloucestershire versus Kent. Kent in a bit of trouble with this one. Gloucestershire scored 472 in the first innings. Cameron Green with 112. James Bracey with 151. Nathan Gilchrist taking 7 for 100 from his 26 overs. Kent then make 393 in reply. Most of those runs coming from the bat of Ben Compton. He scores 178 to continue his good start to the season. Gloucestershire then score 333 for 5 declared. Kent in a bit of trouble at 97 for 6, but Zach Crawley's 54 not out saves the day and gets them over the line for a draw. Can sides be a little bit more attacking in games that they're probably not going to lose? Teams aren't going to try and chase down 350 overs. Can we be a little bit more attacking with these declarations? Gloucestershire just felt like they went on for too long and didn't give them enough time.
Yeah, I think they kind of did a well. Obviously, last week Gloucestershire did enforce the follow one, and I think a lot of other people thought they maybe shouldn't have. And this week, yeah, maybe they could have declared earlier. I think, I don't know, maybe they saw that as a good result against a newly promoted Kent side. Sorry, not a newly promoted Kent side, a recently relegated Kent side, who people think could be competing for promotion. Yeah, I agree that they could have declared earlier. I'm always a fan of kind of like bold declarations. I just think they're exciting to watch from a neutral point of view, at the very least. But also, if your team declares and sets the other team a total, then that's kind of gettable. Gives them an incentive to go, the batting team to go and chase the game, but then also the bowling team are likely to potentially pick up wickets, with pitch deteriorating, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even setting them something gettable. It was more of a case of just giving yourself a bit more time. There was, I think they gave Kent 42 overs to chase down 413. There isn't a world where that they could have declared 70, 80 runs sooner and given them 330 to chase off 55.
And I suppose that is still gettable. Like in this day and age, like Crawley, Maye, Bodrum, and Compton's kind of like the rock, leaning. These kind of players are all aggressive enough to go and chase that. So, I definitely think that it opens the game up more. I think is a good way of kind of phrasing that.
Yeah, I just think I don't think sides are going to go for chases that are like 6.5, 7 and over. When you can bowl defensive, you can put everyone out on the boundary if you want to.
Yeah.
I obviously you can just bowl leg side wides for most of the time, and they're not going to get called because you can't in white ball cricket. So I didn't quite get it. But they nearly got over the line. It was at Crawley's 50 that saved them. I feel like he's scoring enough runs to keep himself in the side. And I really don't think that he should stay in the side. I think he deserves to be dropped at this point.
The thing is, he's only had 2 50s, I think. Yeah, he had a 58 last week, a 54 not out this week. And it depends if England look at that and say, well, we know. The thing with Crawley is you're buying into what he can do. I suppose you do that with every player. It's just that someone like a Brook or a Root, to use an extreme example, they're incredibly consistent. Crawley's a little bit more inconsistent, but there's no denying that when he gets going, like that Tony got at Old Trafford against Australia, like he's a destructive player. Like that's kind of undisputable, I think. So, yeah, it depends if England still buy into what Crawley can do, or if they base it on form. Like we say, there's been so many openers: Haynes, McKinney, Lees, Gay, all Rehan Ahmed, like all these players they could pick instead based on form. And Crawley's not out of form. He's had a couple of 50s now, so he's probably getting back to that level. But it's either feels like 50 or nothing really. He's not
I
even
mean,
really had any kind of 20s or 30s.
his first innings average so far this year is 0.6.
So that's an
He
issue.
he has
That's an issue.
scored one, a duck, and one.
Yeah.
That's not great.
No, no. And that obviously that's an issue. And then he got his second innings has been better 31, 58, 54 now. But that's what I'm saying. Like you kind of buy into if you pick Crawley, you pick Crawley knowing that he might either go and get one duck one or 31, 50 or 50 odd. Like or
Yeah,
more. Like that's the thing. You tread a very fine line with buying into him as a player because you know what he can do when he explodes, or just say, look, we don't think it's worth it. We're just not going to really take that risk, kind of thing.
yeah, and I also think it's a lot harder to get dropped. It's a lot harder to get dropped than it is to get into the side.
Yeah, yeah,
I think your performances have got to be terrible to get out of the side, and they've got to be outstanding to get into the side. And I just don't know if we're at that terrible mark with Zach Crawley at the moment. Um, I think we're getting there. I don't think it's quite going to be there. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Knowing
yeah,
England, they'll just pick Zach Crawley and they'll just say, "Well, well, of course we pick Zach. Um,
yeah.
we know
So
what he can do."
yeah,
And
that's the thing. Like, I don't think anyone can kind of dispute when Crawley's on it. He's like utterly destructive, and it's ended. He's good to watch as well. Like I say, think back to that 100 he got at Old Trafford. That was like,
I mean, from the start of the Ashes to the end of the India series, he was our best batter.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
our best batter
yeah,
and our most consistent batter as well. Um, it's just ever since that kind of the end, it was that finger injury. He didn't get runs at the start of that West Indies series either. He was unlucky a couple of times, and he's just kind of carried on from there. Even when he went off and played some SA20, it was still a bit of a struggle. Another player that's going to come under some selection scrutiny scored 800 this week. Cameron Green, returning to cricket for the first time since September, scores 112. It was rather interesting when he went off after he slid in to score his 100. I'm sure there was a few Australians slightly worried about that, but good, isn't he?
he's really good. Like, look at the way he hits the ball. There's so much conviction in his shots. He just batters the ball. I've not seen someone hit a ball as hard as he has for like a long time, particularly in the County Championship. Like he's dynamic, destructive. I think he'd do a fine job at the top of the order long term for Australia, and I think if that's something they are seriously considering, instead of Constas or post Kawaja a bit further down the line, then I think that's something that they do have to seriously look into. I'm pretty sure he was doing new ball work before his injury in preparation for the India series. Obviously, didn't make it to the India series, so I think he's really good. He's really good at it.
I think three could be a spot for him. I really think that three could be a spot for him. Whether they drop Marnus altogether or they
That's what
move
I was just about to
Marnus
say. I don't know
up
if that,
to
I don't know if I
open,
want to disturb Marnus. Like, I know he's not been in the greatest of form, but part of me just thinks he's got credit in the bank where he can go through this lean patch.
I don't think he's got anything left. I
But
really don't. Do we know if he's coming to Glamorgan yet?
he's recently had a child himself, so I
Oh,
assume
okay.
that's why. Like, as in, well, he put on Instagram that his partner just had a baby, so his wife's had a baby. So I'm guessing that's why he's obviously not been to Glamorgan.
Mm.
Whether or not that kind of changes, I would probably assume he doesn't want to go to Glamorgan to spend time with his new baby. But yeah, I don't know. Like, that remains to be seen. But
Cardiff's a lovely place to raise a child. I can't believe he's not. He's not. um, no. I think that might hurt him. I think that there's players that are fighting for his position in England at the moment that are going to score runs. Whether it's Cameron Green, whether it's a Marcus Harris, whether it's a Cameron Bancroft.
and
Um, and I think there's enough players that are currently in England scoring runs that could be fighting for his spot. And just don't think. I think he had credit in the bank for probably going into that India series, but there's not much left. I don't think. I think it's just a little bit too negative, and depending on who they pick as an opener, um, what I think they'll do is I think they'll move Marnus to open and they'll put Cameron Green at 3. I
I think they'll
that's
want to
what
pick
they'll
Green,
do.
but they're not going to drop Webster because Webster is thoroughly like that'd be incredibly harsh. You do well in Sri Lanka as well.
And also, Cameron Green can't bowl. He'd have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be.
yeah.
He'd
Oh,
have
of
to
course, I
be.
forgot about that. So yeah,
He'd have to be a batter.
it's harsh to drop Inglis as well. I could see them opening with Inglis, potentially putting. It's potentially a shootout between Marnus and Green for 3. I could see them opening with Green. I could also just see them going for Constus, Kawaja, Marnus, but I think Constus would struggle a little bit at Lords with the slope against Rabada, who's notoriously good at Lords. That'd be interesting to see what they do.
Maybe they shouldn't have given David Warner a farewell tour for 3 Test matches, and then try to open the batting with Steve Smith, and maybe they should have just picked an actual opener. And then played Travis Head opening the batting in Sri Lanka when you could have tried out a new opener. Just doesn't.
I forgot Travis. To be fair, he could do it in England. I don't think he will, but he could also do it in the World Championship final.
Oh no, he's a fraud now. He's done. That's it. I've seen him in the IPL. He scored another duck today. He's done. Okay, we don't need to worry about Travis Head anymore. He'll be dropped. He'll be dropped from the Australia squad after the Ashes when Jofra gets him out 10 times. That'll be fine. We don't need to worry about that anymore. Gloucestershire unlucky. Kent did well to save on in this save the game in this one. Again, rain causes another issue. Finally, moving on to Derbyshire versus Northamptonshire, possibly the worst game of the week. Derbyshire scored 307 in their first innings, 4 wickets for Justin Broad, 89 from Wayne Madsen, 91 from Brooke Guest, 508 declared for Northampton. Luke Proctor scores 150. Saif Saeed continues his good form with 105 off 90 deliveries. And then Derbyshire back to 202 for 3. Rain comes down all of day 4, and they don't even bother putting the covers on because this game was dead. I don't know what else to say about this game. Wayne Madsen scores runs again. I always like him scoring runs. And Saif Saeed looks quite good.
Saif Saeed's really good. Different innings to what he did at Old Trafford, which was a much more kind of watchful, careful innings. This week, blasted the cover off the ball. A much more kind of stereotypical Saif Saeed knock. But it's good that he has that kind of other side to his game that he showed last week at Old Trafford, like I say. He's really good. He is really good. And also his figures this season, his combined bowling figures, I don't exactly have them in front of me. But they're ridiculous because he basically never concedes a run. He doesn't bowl many overs, a handful, 5-6 innings at the most probably. Barely concedes a run. Takes genuinely a good amount of wickets. So yeah, Saif Saeed is a really good all-rounder and an incredible fielder, one of the better out there probably. So yeah, I think he's. I've said it for a while now. Probably at least one of the most underrated players in county cricket. Cracking play.
Yeah, no, I like him. I think he's really good. But that's all there really is. Jesus, that game was dull if you watched it. I had it on an extra screen. I don't think I actually looked up at it once. We'll look at the tables. Division 1, you have Notts top of the table. Sussex equal on points in second. Essex are in third, 2 points behind them. Warwickshire are in fourth, just a point behind Essex in third. Hampshire 3 points behind Warwickshire in fifth. Then you drop down to Yorkshire 6th, Surrey 7th, Somerset 8th, Durham 9th, and Worcestershire 10th. So we both said that Surrey would probably win it, but we'd like Somerset and Durham to win it. They are currently 7th, 8th, and 9th. There is still 11 games to go, so let's not count them out already. Any surprises there? Not be at the top of the table is a bit of a surprise for me.
Surprise, yeah, in terms of the top. But like I said, I kind of thought they did quite well. I didn't necessarily think that'd be tough. I don't necessarily think they'll win it. I also I'm a little bit surprised Warwickshire are as high as they are because I thought they'd struggle, but I'm glad they're proving me wrong. Like I don't want them to get relegated or anything, obviously. So no, I thought they might struggle, but they've made a solid enough start this season.
Mm.
Should be all right after a pretty turbulent end to the winter.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also Sussex doing well, obviously coming up straight
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
Division
that's
Two
great to see. Yeah.
as well is impressive. In terms of Division 2, you have Leicestershire top of the table on 54 points. Kent are in second on 52. Derbyshire just behind them in third. Middlesex fourth. Lancs fifth. Gloucestershire sixth. Northamptonshire are seventh. And Glamorgan are right at the bottom in eighth. The only side to lose 2 of their games. Kind of Derbyshire being up at third surprised me, but I guess their win against, was it Gloucester? It was Gloucestershire first game
Yeah,
of
it
the season,
yeah.
was a bit of a shock. And then they've got a couple of draws in there, and they were kind of both nothing draws, if I remember rightly. Yeah, they were. But the chase against Leicestershire was never going to happen, and they would never probably, and Leicestershire needed 6 more wickets. It was never really going to happen. They've been in a couple of dull games so far. I think it'll all sort itself out. We've obviously got a few teams having a break the next few weeks. So if you do your cricket draft, try and work out what players aren't
It's not
playing.
wrong for me that I've only got 3 players who are not playing this week. So.
I've got every player playing apart from I've got Wells and Jennings that I need to sub out.
Yeah, I've got. I don't know exactly who off the top of my head, but I'm gonna have to. It's gonna be an expensive week the next week, for my penalty transfers. In fact, I'm not actually gonna be able to make all my transfers, so I'm gonna have a lot of missed points. Basically, it's terrible planning. But
I
never mind.
planned well. I just didn't pick my players well. This week I only scored 862 points.
Yeah, I had a bit of a bad week. I only got 1,158. The week before I got 1,500, and in game week 1 I got 1,700. So I'm slowly declining, which isn't a great sign. But
Yeah, I've gone from 150th in the world to 800th.
I don't even know where I am in the world. 942nd. So nice. Not bad. Not bad. Could be worse.
No, we're getting there. But that is going to be it for today's video. I very much hope you enjoyed it. We will be back similar time next week for a roundup of the county championship, and I think we've got another podcast going out Friday or Saturday. Bit of an IPL update, bit of a state of cricket update that I haven't actually planned out yet, but that's the plan. So we should be back Friday or Saturday. So make sure you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, following the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Remember to leave a like, a review, a rating wherever you get it, and also go check out Joe because he very kindly helps me out with these consults. So I do appreciate his time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.